good evening. Thank you all for coming tonight. Appreciate it. So welcome here to our Lake Association Social again this year. We've got a lot of good presenters here that we want to get going on. Some exceptional presentations coming up here that we'd like to talk about. And just like every year, we have a bunch of great presentations. I might say excellent this year because I'm one of the presenters. But, so we're going to start out our night tonight with Ken Wood, our president of the Lake Association, talking about the state of the lake. Then we're going to move on to Dylan Kinney, talking about invasive species that we have in Forest Lake, because we have many invasive species that we work quite hard to get rid of, but are causing us problems every year. Steve McComas will be our third presenter tonight that will be talking about the treatment results that we had for 2025. So we'll be talking about all the things that the Watershed District and the city and the Lake Association have done to eradicate and remove our AIS vegetation. And then we'll have Mike Kinney from the Watershed District talking about how our community actions can shorten the extent of the life of the lakes. Every lake has a life cycle. And so it'd be real interesting to hear a little more about him from that. I'll be talking tonight about Let's Go Fishing, which is a new nonprofit organization here in Forest Lake. And then we'll have the mayor of Forest Lake, Blake Roberts, presenting for us for a few minutes at the end of our presentations. Sorry, okay, yes. So with that, I'll hand this off to Ken, president of the Lake Association.
Good evening and welcome. It's so great to see you all. Thank you very much for coming. We're glad you could join us. We appreciate your continued interest in Forest Lake. I'm Kenneth Wood. I'm the president of the Forest Lake Association. And I just say I'm honored to be in this role and help and serve all of you that are here today. So I'd like to start off with some recognition for a couple different groups here. First, with giving thanks to Chris and Dino Weiss and the American Legion staff for hosting our meeting, and please give them a hearty round of applause for doing another great job. Next, I'd like to ask all of the board members of the Forest Lake Association to stand up. So we have a first-class team of board members with decades of experience in environmental issues, finance, engineering, small business leadership, real estate, and nonprofit governments. I'd like to ask you to give this incredible set of volunteers a round of applause for all that they do. So we had a great turnout for the annual ice cleanup, and that was on March 1st this year. The team found and removed a good amount of debris and trash. It wasn't that bad though, just so you know, the fishermen are doing a good job taking care of themselves out there. I would like to thank SRC. They donated the dumpster for that activity. And thank you to the American Legion also, because they generously donated a lunch for all the workers after the cleanup. And then finally, a special thanks to Bob Muskie for putting together the annual ice cleanup. Thank you, Bob. Well, this is our fun thing. You know, we have this annual, when's the ice out going to be on the lake? And it happened on March 31st this year. We had 5 winners of the Ice Off contests. So I'd like to congratulate Jane, Ben, Richard, David, and Mick. And if you're here, just raise your hands if any of you are here. Great job guessing. All right, there you go. There's one of them. Thank you. Awesome, awesome, so good. Okay. Let's see. I've got a slide here. I've got a special guest who's joining me this evening, Andrew Hallberg. Andrew, could you come up and join us? Oh, and Austin is joining us as well. Great. So, Hallberg Marine has been a strong supporter of the lake and our community. We truly appreciate this partnership, especially this recent 2% of Forest Lake Association member purchases donations. Andrew has something that he'd like to share with us this evening. Andrew?
Yeah, so I think initially when we talked on the phone a couple days ago, we were sitting around like $8,500, $8,700 that we had to donate. We had another purchase that cleared through. That's part of this program we're doing. So I've got a check for the Forest Lake Association for $9,250. Yeah, there you go, Ken.
Thank you. Yeah.
And this is, once again, very happy, very excited to be able to partnering with the association, with the residents, with the people that enjoy this beautiful body of water that we get to enjoy. Once again, we like to do everything we can to continue contributing into this community. This has been, as far as I'm concerned, so far a very successful program, and we're looking forward to keeping it going. The only thing we ask is that if you're in the market and you're looking for something, just give us a shot. Come see our inventory, see if our pricing works. And if we can make a deal with you on something, then we're gonna keep pumping this money into the lake and the association, so.
Austin, did you want to say anything as well? Great. Austin Hallberg, Andrew Hallberg, thank you so much. I'll just say a couple more words about this. On behalf of the Forest Lake Association, we sincerely appreciate your generosity and continued support of Forest Lake. It truly makes a difference. It's support like this that helps us continue the work we're doing on the projects we've got to preserve the lake. And we're also thinking about some new ideas how to spend this money too, so stand by. So let's talk about membership. So membership and donations are going extremely well this year, and thank you for your continued support. We're ahead of pace on our lake sponsors and our members, and this is helping fund our programs and initiatives. So looking ahead, we think we've got, right now we're sitting at 552 members. There's 950 homes on the lake. We've got to reach out to those other 400 and get them involved, have them be with us, and make this even a bigger success. So you've got a handout with the agenda. On the back of that is a membership form. Please just share that with your neighbors and pass that along. So looking forward this year, we're hoping to get to 575 or more members this year. Please help us get to our goal. And then speaking of membership, I'd like to welcome our newest members to the Lake Association. And we've got 11 new members that have joined us this year. They're listed up here on the slide. If any of you are here, as part of when you're a new member, you get a flag, a boat flag for free as part of your initial membership. We have them in the back of the room, and please just go ahead and pick one up before you leave tonight. And also, we've got new yard signs too, so grab one of those too. If somebody would like to actually purchase one of those flags for the current members, those are available as well back there, and our team will help you with that as well. Okay. So let's look at the spending at the Forest Lake Association. We've got funds that we invest into the lake and the community. The majority of our spending goes towards lake management, includes water quality, invasive species prevention, and ongoing maintenance. We also allocate funds for community events like this, education, outreach, and to keep our members engaged and interested. Overall, our focus is to make sure that every dollar supports the health of the lake and the strength of this community. Now let's look at income. The total income for 2025 was $64,000. Individual members, they contributed $19,000 or 30% of the total income. The rest, well, where did the rest of the money come from? So that was from lake sponsors, which you saw on those slides that we were rolling at the beginning. We got it from donations, from the Hallberg 2% program, and from grant money when we apply to Washington County or the DNR and the like. And so what we've done is we have diversified the income base of this organization to make it as strong as it is today. And it also, what that's done is it's allowed us to keep that minimum membership at $50, which is very reasonable for people that live here on beautiful Forest Lake. As of April to date, we've got income of $45,000 already, and we're on track to bring in $65,000 again this year or more. As of April of 2026, we've got a cash position of $142,000, and we've set aside up to $60,000 for targeting invasive species emergency treatment. And you'll hear more about the things they're most worried about when Dylan gets up here and talks about starry stonewort. So let's talk about the tri-party agreement. This is a really fantastic piece of work. We put together an agreement between the city, the Watershed District, and the Forest Lake Association. It's been an annual agreement each year for the last 2 or 3 years, and it sets aside money in advance to take care and work together on treating and taking care of environmental species. Thank you. So, total 2025, we had $150,000 that was budgeted. We spent $180,000, so we overspent by $30,000 that came out of our reserve funding that we had. And for 2026, we don't have a strong view of what we're going to have to spend on AIS yet. Steve McComas right here is going to be doing the delineation, and then we'll know what we'll need to budget. We did now sign, it's in the signature loop, is a 3-year tri-party agreement, and that's got an inflation clause in it. 2027, the city has agreed to increase it by, and the Watershed and ourselves, 15% increase in funding for this in 2027 and 10% more in 2028. Okay. So the weed harvester. What are the things, our love-hate relationship with the weed harvester. So what happens here is we apply for the DNR permit to operate the weed harvester. The actual operation of this is done by the city of Forest Lake and is paid by the tri-party agreement. The weed harvester only operates in DNR permitted areas. We did 163 loads removed out of the lake. That was 1,956 cubic yards of weeds. That was a 20% increase over last year. What does that look like? Let's get an idea. We've filled a gymnasium with weeds. Yeah. And you picked it up yourself, right? Okay. So what's happening now, though, is that in the future, we've got some issues with the weed harvester. First was this year, the DNR told us that we had to cut back significantly the amount of areas they were cutting by 40%. Otherwise, they wouldn't issue the permit. So you're going to see less cutting this year. Now so there'll be cheers for that and boos, but I'm not sure which. Okay, so, but then next year, 2027, we may be out of the weed harvesting business altogether. So there's 2 threatened species in Forest Lake. The first one is a Blanding turtle. The other one is a minnow, the pug-nose shiner minnow. So we'll see. Later this year, we'll know whether we're going to be able to, we'll have a dramatically reduced area to a harvest or no area at all. Watercraft inspections, this is super important. We partner with the city with the Comfort Lake, Forest Lake Watershed District on this. The funding comes out of the tri-party. 4,700 boats were inspected. 2,400 hours of labor were extended on doing this. We're looking into further expanding this boat inspection program as we go into this summer. Okay. This one is important that you all see. There's actually a new newspaper. This is going to be printed material. It's going to be in your mailbox. It's called The Laker, and it'll be focused on the fun things that are going on in Forest Lake. They've got a couple of these publications already in the Twin Cities. We'll be an advertiser in that, so keep an eye out for it. Again, pass that one along to your neighbors, but it'll be in everyone's mailbox that's on the lake. We're hoping to see, again, increase in membership from that. Upcoming events, barbecue planned in the July timeframe as a fundraiser, and then we've got a boat races event planned for August 29th, social event at that one. Last thing, as you go out, make sure if you don't have a sign or if your sign got banged up, needs a new one, they're in the back. Grab a sign. We've got QR codes on these now, so your neighbors can stop and see what we're up to is all. Just want to say thank you again for being here. Thank you for your time, and we'll go on to our next speaker. Oh, that's a great question, but we're going to hold the questions until the question and answer session, and that'll be after the speakers are done. Great. Thank you. Our next speaker is Dylan Kinney from Minnesota Lakes and Rivers. Let's hear it for Dylan.
Thanks for having me, everyone. So a little bit about me before I begin. I actually grew up in the Chisago area and went to Forest Lake High School and graduated in 2020, so it's fun to be here tonight. Let's see. Oh. There we go. So, my name's Dylan. I'm with Minnesota Lakes and Rivers Advocates. We're a statewide nonprofit. We work with lake associations throughout the state, really trying to bring them together. That partnership you guys were talking about with the Watershed District, the city, and the Lake Association is actually really unique. A lot of lake associations throughout the state don't do anything like that. They really operate by themselves. The city will do their own thing, and watershed districts will kind of do their own thing typically too, so that's really cool. And that's really the type of partnership we try to encourage. Let's see. Down there. There we go. So this just shows of all our member associations. We have about 300 of the state's 500 lake associations that are members of our organization. And this kind of shows the makeup of our organization. It's a little unique. So we started as a 501c4, yada, yada, yada. Basically, we lobby at the Capitol for lake and river policies. A lot of the funding that goes to counties comes from this pot of money called the County AIS Prevention Aid, and that was something that was started in 2014 when the issue of AIS was really taking off, and people throughout the country didn't really know what to do about it. So it's $10 million of state funding that goes out to all of the counties, split among all of the counties in the state, depending on how many lakes they have. And that funding, trickles down to lake associations and supports a lot of the work you guys do for AIS. So that's something that's really important, and that is an example of one of the policies we lobby for. That is going to be up for potentially being cut in half next year, so that's something I'll hit on later. And then we also do a lot of educational programs, and we have a political action committee, so we can actually support what we call pro-water candidates. You'd think that would be everyone, but actually a lot of candidates aren't really connected with their lake associations. They don't really know what your priorities are. So yeah, those are the three sides of our organization. And now we'll talk about Starry Stonewards. So one of our groups that we get together is called Stop Starry. And we get representatives together from Cass County, Leech Lake, Band of Ojibwe, a bunch of other counties like Beltrami, and we're trying to expand that group. It's mostly in the north central part of the state. And they get together once, or I think it's either bi-monthly or monthly, and they discuss novel strategies for getting rid of this aquatic invasive species called starry stonewort. I'm going to see what I have for slides on that. Okay, great. So this is a relatively new aquatic invasive species in the state, and it was first discovered in 2014 on Lake Coronis. And it's a really big issue because it spreads really easily. Let me see if I can go back. Don't have a picture of the bulbils, but usually you'll see little flowers. That might actually be a start of one. I'm not an expert. And those little bulbils can lodge themselves in the soil. They can get stuck in your boat and any residual water in your boat. And they're really easy to spread, and they're really hard to see, especially because they're white, and they become translucent in the water. So it's really a very easily spreadable aquatic invasive species, and once it's in a lake, it really covers it very deeply. It creates these dense mats of plant material that inhibit fish breeding. You can't get out of, get off your dock because you can almost stand on it. It's so thick in areas. Started in Lake Coronis, and I think it's in 38 different lakes across the state. So it's a big issue, and what we're trying to do is contain it. So there are a lot of different novel strategies for how you can treat it. No one's eradicated it yet from a lake, but we're working on that. And then how you can prevent it, because that's the best way to avoid dealing with it forever. So these machines are called CD3s, Clean, Drain, Dry, Dispose machines. And this is actually a company that's based out of Minnesota, and they do a lot of work throughout the Midwest. These machines are solar powered, so you don't need an electricity source. They're waterless, so you also don't need any sort of hookup for that. And they have all these different tools that you can see here. And this is, these machines, the U of M did a study on this, they're 95% effective at removing excess water and plant material, stuff like that, that would spread something like starry stonewort or zebra mussels or Eurasian milfoil, anything like that. And they are really useful for getting that plant material and any of that, getting your boat clean. Compared to hand picking, they're way more effective, and you can clean your boat in about 7 minutes with one of these. Also, what's really cool on the back end, say if the Forest Lake Lake Association were to get one, you can track the data and you can see how many people are using this machine. You can see what time of day they're using it, which tools they use. There's no camera or anything, they're not spying on you, but you can see how effective it's been. So it's really cool. It's a really awesome innovation, and these are pretty new. They're really effective when they're paired with an AIS inspector at a lake access. And I would not recommend replacing inspectors with these, but they're a really great supplemental tool. They're actually more effective than decon units, and they also don't need to be repaired as often. Let's see. And then this just shows all the areas where we have, we got a grant from the state of Minnesota to help put, I think 30 or 35 of these CD3 units on lakes that either have starry, trying to contain it, or are at really high risk of getting it. Next, we're gonna try and get a few in the Boundary Waters area in the Rainy River watershed, and try shielding some of those lakes that are really at risk and are especially biodiverse and have really threatened species in them. So, what else do I have? And then the group that we're working with to do that is called the Aquatic Invasive Species Boundary Waters Collaborative. They are very much like the Stop Starry Stonewort program. They are county officials, watershed district officials, soil and water conservation districts, tribes, and they all come together and they work on prevention strategies. They exchange ideas, and they create a partnership much like the one that you guys have, which is, like I said, very unique. And that's what we're trying to encourage, because our definition of the problem with water quality in Minnesota is not that there's not enough funding, it's that all these organizations are siloed. You know, usually these organizations are not talking to each other. You might think the DNR manages lakes, but it's actually lake associations. It's people like you who manage lakes. So yeah, we try to bring them together. We try to collapse those silos, get people talking, and using resources more effectively. So this is the County AIS Prevention Aid. This is what I was talking about earlier. You can see the number of new AIS infestations going way back to the 90s. And you can see once we institute this thing called the AIS Prevention Aid and people start learning how to use this money at the counties and how to distribute it effectively, people on the ground are using this money to fund inspector hours or get a machine like the CD3 or anything like that. And suddenly you see this huge drop in the number of new infestations every year. So this has been super effective. It's been a model for the rest of the country. And right now it is at risk of being cut. So this was actually something that was proposed in the governor's budget in 2025. And we lobbied. We have a lobbyist, full-time lobbyist at the Capitol. So we lobbied for months, and we reached out to our members to send messages to the governor about this and to the legislature. And we were successful in getting it delayed for 2 years. So it is set to be cut in 2027. So this is something you should be aware of. And we're gonna fight to elect pro-water candidates in 2026. So hopefully we can actually reverse this cut and keep this funding going and keep driving down that number of new AIS infestations in the state, because this has been really effective, especially the longer we've had this funding, the more effective it's become. So I think I covered a lot of this. This is a really great opportunity, I should mention. You know, there are a ton of people retiring from the legislature this year, so there are a lot of new candidates. So we're gonna be working on the campaign trail, networking with these candidates, getting to know them, educating them about issues like aquatic invasive species. And there's also gonna be a new governor. So this is a great time to try and refund, reset, and yeah, so it's gonna be a great time to hopefully keep this funding going. Let's see. Yeah, so basically our strategy over the next year is we're trying to get Lake Association folks from across the state together into one coalition to support this issue, because this is such a big deal for lake associations, for counties, for county boards, anyone like that. And basically, if you add up all of the lake associations throughout the state, it would be the biggest civic group in the state, bigger than the Teachers Union or Pheasants Forever or Ducks Unlimited, anything like that, because there are about, how many, you guys have 500 members? And a lot of those are probably families of 2, so that's about 1,000 people. If you multiply that by 500 lake associations, that's 500,000 members. The average lake association is a little smaller, usually about 200 members. So we estimate there's about 100,000 members of lake associations throughout the state. If we can get all those people together, pushing for one issue like restoring this funding, that's gonna be huge. That could change the course of our lakes over the next few decades. So that's what we're pushing to do right now at the legislature. And if you're interested in learning more about this, learning about our policy work, we also work on other water quality issues, shoreline issues, stuff like that, and hopefully getting more lake associations CD3 machines. So if you want to learn more about that, I have some materials in the back, and you can sign up for our email list. We only send maybe 2 emails a month, so we will not fill up your inbox. And I think that is about all I have. Yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it. We're also going to have a big event to try and rally support for this funding in 2027, right as the legislature is mocking up the budget and finalizing that. So we're going to try one last push after a year of organizing, and hope to see you guys all there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Great. Okay, our next presenter is Steve McComas, the owner of Blue Water Sciences, who keeps an eye on everything that we got going on in our lake. Steve?
Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Steve McComas. I'm with Blue Water Science. Oh, thanks. And I do write an outdoor news column about once a month, as well as the Lake Detective. So I've been out there studying lakes and investigating lakes, and certainly have had the opportunity to work with Forest Lake, which, as you know, is a great lake and so much fun. What I'm going to talk about tonight is primarily invasive species, aquatic plant species, but also some of our native species as well. In Forest Lake, we have we have three aquatic invasive plant species, and then there's zebra mussels. However, what we should kind of mention too is that the native plants, we have 20 species of aquatic native plants in Forest Lake, a very good diversity. So that does help to a degree to kind of moderate maybe some of the impacts of our invasive aquatic plant species. Well, going to our two of them, curly-leaf pondweed and Eurasian milfoil, we've been tracking curly-leaf with herbicide management and things since 2009. And if you look at the acres treated, there's quite a lot of variability. I mean, one year we can have, like in 2009, 98 acres, and in 2012, there was 155 acres. More recently, in 2024, we treated 16 acres, and we were a little bit nervous going, well, where's the curly-leaf? Well, in 2025, it came roaring back. We treated 167 acres. So what we found is that the lake sediments in Forest Lake are conducive for moderate growth of curly-leaf on a long-term basis. What that means is that some years it'll be based on climatic conditions. We can have a big crop, and other years with climatic conditions we can have a low crop. But the sediments are such that they're not really highly conducive to heavy growth every single year. So we'll see this moderation from year to year. I'll be going out next week to see what we have for 2026. So it's always interesting and fairly unpredictable. Up to this point, I've been on some lakes. We're finding curly-leaf so far this year what I would call spotty. There's some lakes, there's a big crop, other lakes not so big. We'll find out for Forest Lake in a couple of days. On this same chart, we've been tracking Eurasian water milfoil in terms of how many acres were treated. Milfoil came in 2015, and since then, the Lake Association has been very aggressive. We've been treating almost all the Eurasian milfoil we're finding, and also what we're finding is the lake sediments are also moderately fertile for supporting Eurasian water milfoil, which means some years there'll be a crop, big crop, other years not such a big crop, but the long-term average is pretty moderate. Last couple of years we've been treating 47, 48 acres of Eurasian milfoil in the lake. Well, here is a curly-leaf map that we put all our treatment areas on top of each other, going from 2012 up to 2025. So you can see that around the lake, around the margin of the lake, the shoreland area, the nearshore area, the sediments will support curly-leaf, but not every year. So some years it's a little bit more robust than other years. You can see that first, second, and third lake all have curly-leaf to a degree, but again, not every year. What happens if we didn't treat it, it would really be matted at the surface, making navigation fairly difficult, and also having some potential adverse ecological impacts. Here is some milfoil in 2025. It generally is single-stemmed, which means that the nitrogen content in the lake sediments is somewhat moderate. When you have high nitrogen in those lake sediments, the Eurasian milfoil can really grow up, branch profusely at the surface, and then cause some real matted conditions. But what we're finding is that for the most part, Eurasian milfoil is single stems, but it will still hit the surface, and it can still be a recreational and navigational problem. And those are the areas that we tend to treat. Here is a treatment map for 2025. You can see that in 2025, most of the milfoil was in First Lake. We had, for the first time in a number of years, a little bit of growth of milfoil in Third Lake. What was of interest is that in Second Lake, we didn't treat any milfoil. And that's a little bit interesting and nice because in 2024, we had a big outbreak of Eurasian milfoil in Second Lake, and not really much in First or Second. The Lake Association treated it aggressively and really knocked it back. And that's why, if you look in 2025, we had no milfoil in Second Lake. So we got at least 2 years control in Second Lake. We popped up a little bit of milfoil in Third Lake in 2025. If we look at the kind of a hotspot map of milfoil treatment areas from 2015 to 2025, First Lake has supported most of the milfoil, a little bit of milfoil in Second Lake, that one big year in 2024, and for the first time in 2025, we had some spots that were treated. So we'll see what milfoil is up to this year. Another invasive species, the third aquatic plant invasive species we have in Forest Lake is flowering rush. Flowering rush doesn't always take over a lake, but has the potential if it goes untreated. And what's particularly special about Forest Lake is that we have a fertile flowering rush, meaning that it's a diploid. It produces seeds that are fertile and can produce a new plant. Most of the other populations of flowering rush in Minnesota are triploid. They're not fertile. Even though they produce seeds, those seeds will not produce new plants. So Forest Lake, we have a little bit of a challenge for controlling flowering rush to spread, because not only can it spread from roots, and these little corms are called in the root, but also from seeds. The Forest Lake Association, in conjunction with the Watershed District, has been very good collecting the flowers on the flowering rush before they go to seed. And that seems to really have helped prevent the widespread distribution of these large mats. So we don't have much of this high density flowering rush growth. Rather, a lot of our flowering rush growth is spotty. It's stems, little patches, maybe 10, 12 stems. Well, heck, we're treating that as well to keep it from spreading throughout the lake, and it's been pretty successful. In 2025, we did 3 treatments. The first treatment, July 2nd, is shown right here. It was primarily in Second Lake and a little bit in Third Lake. And then next couple of treatments occurred in August and September. By the time we got done, we did our final check. We were down to a couple thousand square feet of flowering rush in the whole entire lake. And it's pretty much relegated, in this case, Second Lake, a little bit in Third Lake, hardly any in First Lake. So that's been a successful control program to a degree. Notice we didn't say eliminate. It's been tough to eliminate any aquatic invasive species, including flowering rush. And if you look at statistically, when we first started in 2014, we were treating 7-8 acres total for the whole year. By the time we get down here to 2025, we're treating a tenth of an acre. We ended up with 0.06 acres of flowering rush. That's very good. Even though it's patchy, we have some widespread patches. They are they're 10 square feet, 10, 20 square feet. So that's been a very successful program from that approach. Another invasive species in the lake are zebra mussels, first discovered in 2015. And what we've been doing more than anything else is kind of tracking them. They've been almost impossible to eliminate from the lake. So we're tracking them. And by 2023, when we did a plant survey, we sampled all those points on the lake, the black dots. The red dots show where we found zebra mussels on aquatic plants. You can see First, Second, and Third Lake, pretty wide distribution. So from 2015 to 2023, the zebra mussels pretty much spread. Typically, the pattern is, after a few years, zebra mussels are so good at filtering, and their abundance as it increases, heck, they filter out all the algae, or filter out a lot of the algae in the lake, reduces the algae concentration, which is their food. So even though the water clears up, heck, they've run out of a food source and they start dying back. Now, they're not going to all die off, but their numbers will decrease. And I don't know if folks around here on your docks and on your lifts, as you bring them in, I would predict that the zebra mussel density is probably going to start decreasing. They're not going to be eliminated from the lake, but they'll go into a cycle where their numbers will go down, algae will come up a little bit, the zebra mussels will respond to that, they'll increase a little bit. So we'll get this kind of a sine wave of abundance, but they will probably not be ever as abundant as they were the first couple of years they came in. So that's zebra mussels. Right now, what we're finding, yes, they're on our docks and lifts. They'll be on hard surfaces. They also attach to plants, and that's where we're finding a lot of zebra mussels in terms of their wide distribution. Well, the native plants are important for a lake for maintaining good water quality. There'll be Mike Kinney will be talking a little bit about the water quality in Forest Lake. The key sometimes is not only watershed management programs and practices, but also if we can maintain a good aquatic plant, native aquatic plant base, they help keep water clarity in check and help sustain and maintain good water quality as well. We look at some of our intensive lake surveys from 2013, 2018, 2023. Yeah, we had some gradual increase in native plant distribution. You probably have recognized that. Some of that, though, was due to the clear water coming from zebra mussels. So the plants would respond to the clear water, grow out a little bit deeper, and a little bit more abundant. But again, the aquatic plants will probably start responding to water clarity as the algae increases and zebra mussels go down. It's kind of fun. All these things are interconnected. I guess one thing we could talk about too is that in terms of our native plants, we have 20 good species. We have no starry stonewort at this time. We do keep checking for it. The Lake Association has sponsored starry stonewort checks at the public accesses, and we have not found starry stonewort, but we do monitor, when we're monitoring curly pondweed and milfoil and flowering rush, we're also always looking at the native plants. In June, they were already up pretty robust last year. They were even in the system to the end of the year. They were still pretty much present even into October last year. We did our last survey. That's coontail. Coontail is probably the most common species in the lake. That's a native plant. Other species are flat stem pondweed, another pondweed, another native plant, and even this water celery, which a couple years ago really took off. That's the plant that has these kind of thick blades and grows a lot, very profusely in shallow water, 3, 4, 5 feet or shallower. And that was a real nuisance because it's weakly rooted. Wind and wave action can uproot that, and rafting around the lake, sometimes ending up on your shore. So the native plants are in good condition, good shape, sometimes maybe too good a shape. So as we kind of summarize here, the changes in Forest Lake, we have this kind of cascade. If we improve clarity due to algae reductions, we get more aquatic plant growth. And then with the aquatic plants, they'll grow to deeper depths, but at the same time, they're helping sustain good water quality in terms of good water clarity. Fish, what we found with invasive species, the pounds of fish per acre don't seem to change too much. However, how am I doing for time? Okay. The fish don't seem to change much in terms of pounds per acre, but they will change their habitat or change their habit, and they're not necessarily in some of the same areas they used to be in. So the fish community will move around a little bit. Pounds of fish per acre stay about the same. Just a quick couple of conclusions. Forest Lake's still a great lake with all these unique features. Even though it has some aquatic invasive species, it's still a healthy lake. The ongoing challenge is to manage AIS in a cost-effective and an ecological approach to maintain good water quality and good recreational conditions. So thank you very much.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you again, Steve. That was excellent. Our next speaker, Mike Kinney from the Watershed District. Mike?
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to have to recruit somebody in the front here for a demo. So first of all, if you don't like what I'm going to offer to say, please don't confuse me with Dylan Kinney, different spelling, different last name. So he's just getting into his career, so we'll be easy on him. So. All right, thank you. So a little different topic this year versus projects and things, but just life cycles of lakes. And some of you that driven around the North Country, you may have seen some of these, but not recognize that lakes go through a natural transition over time. Every lake but one lake. Anybody knows? I'll buy you a drink if you know the one lake that's not filling in. Or it's growing and not filling in. Lake Baikal in southern Siberia, and I was there almost a little more than 30 years ago. So the mountains are separating, and it's more than a mile deep. So Watershed District again. So we're a special unit of government. Created in 1955, or the law was passed because of the unique boundaries. Like school districts, they're not sort of squares, but we have 4 different cities, a couple townships, 2 counties, and they're represented by different members, board members that are appointed by the county boards. And this particular one is unique because it is citizen petitioned. A lot of watershed districts were created through governments requesting to the state to be formed. So these are some of the things then that we work on, and Aiden will be here too to talk about some of the projects. So just in general, while some of these lake conditions existed prior to European settlement, but we can definitely short circuit the life of a lake by being overly aggressive and excess contributions, both in terms of nutrients and sediment. So 2 things that'll fill in a lake, and that's going to be things that are organic, such as leaves, grass clipping, algae, things like that grow, and then inorganic is sediment and stuff, so things like that. So to get a sense as to what the historical nature of Forest Lake was like, and then do some fast forward into looking at what's achievable from a goal standpoint. We contract with the St. Croix Watershed Research Station. They had students from University of St. Thomas and University of Minnesota, plus some people from Calgary who were involved, to take a look at the cores. And here's kind of a big takeaway in this area. So it's basically what it amounted to do was doing something equivalent of like climate reconstruction. So the reports are available with the district, and part of my past career was involved with doing core type of work. So, but this really gives a sense as to where it was historically, and then where it's moving from a sediment standpoint. And right now, you can see over the last 30 years or so, still been on this uptick. But that's why we're working on some programs, or did some major projects that we'll talk about here shortly to help reduce that. So this is just some of the the overall, the highest is in the East Basin, lowest in the West Basin. And then not surprising, early settlement contributed a lot because we just didn't know, right? That was what the impacts were, and a lot of different changing land activity, both through forest deforestation and farming. The Watershed District has an amazing 28 miles of ditching that we deal with. So artificial, that is. So the phosphorus, sediment, nitrogen, these are all components that promote algae growth. And again, as with excess algae, that dies and then goes to the bottom of the lake. And so some of our lakes that we've done some of the core samples, Shields Lake, for example, and Moody Lake over Chisago County, have tremendous amount. They were highly eutrophic, very, very pea green, and the top portion of the sediment was just fluff. It was all this organic material. So it can have a real negative impact on the lakes for sure, because once you get into a condition where it's referred to as anoxic, meaning no oxygen in the bottom portion of the lake, it'll release the phosphorus, and then that drives algae blooms in the summertime. So kind of where we're at in 2015, 2016, kind of the summer average was nearing that 40 micrograms per liter. I know that doesn't really mean anything, but at that time when I was here, I knew a lot of people, the general sense was that in July and August, you maybe saw about a foot down into the lake. It was just that turbid and green algae stuff. Now it's cleaner from a lot of the projects and other factors, including the zebra mussels, and the algae, or the summertime average is a lot less, which then has that factor of contributing to more light and more aquatic plants. So we're still working together with the city, county, others to do projects to continue to preserve the lakes. But also we just kind of want to go over a few things that residents can also do to help protect Forest Lake into the future. All right, we got Aiden up here for a few slides. And again, I need a volunteer.
Thanks, Mike. All right, so he's coming back. Don't get too excited. So Mike's kind of giving you the why of what I'm going to be talking about, and I'm going to be talking about the how. So what we talk about in my job, in my position, is lakescaping. So mostly what this involves is asking residents who is using your lakeside property. So obviously you're using it, whether it's you enjoy the lake view, you enjoy putting the dock out, going boating, maybe you have pets who are using your property, maybe you have kids, grandkids, whoever, you're using it in some way. But as you look out at the lake and you see loons there, or you think about, you know, where are the turtles sunning themselves, where are the frogs, where are the fish spawning, when you think about all those critters, if they're not using your property, why not? They're somewhere, and if not your property, why not? So this photo that I have here is an example of a good kind of middle ground lakescaping. One of the things I tell folks who are looking to improve their property is, if you don't go there, don't mow there. There's always going to be a better option, and in this case, they did kind of a more decorative shoreland buffer. Now, it's not going to be as wild as some people might picture, and if you're a loon, you may be looking for a little bit more wild section, but this is probably going to make do, especially when you're looking at other areas that are a little bit more turf grass. And this is all about a balance with what you're able to do on your property. You know, obviously you want to have some spot for, you know, accessing the lake, for putting your dock out, but if you're not using a section, think about how you could be putting it back towards use by, you know, other creatures. And as part of this, this is also the time of year that a lot of residents will come to me with problems. So apart from the benefits, how can you avoid problems? How can you protect investments? A lot of you, especially maybe on the North Shore, are looking out at your lawns right now, and you'll see that turf almost get rolled back. Doesn't happen every year, but it happens more years than you'd like. And part of that is turf grass. Even well-managed turf grass, you're only going to have roots a little bit, let's see, you're only going to have pretty shallow roots. So if you haven't had a chance to come take a look at this root board or this plant board, come on up when we're done. Mike Kinney's holding the root length of the turf grass right there. It's a couple inches. And that's premium golf course turf, only a few inches. And Diane's gonna find the lead plant here. This is how long typically a lead plant root is. So that's not an exaggeration. So if you want to take a look at which plant is going to hold that shoreline together better when facing wave action, ice, wind, all those things that your lakeshore is dealing with all year round, all the time, that root is going to do a lot more for you than the turf grass is. So apart from all the benefits you can see to the other lake creatures, it's also about protecting your investment. You heard earlier about all the great, efforts that the Lake Association has made along with the City of Forest Lake and then also the Watershed District. Protecting all of those investments comes down to actions like this that can it's not going to get you across the finish line, but it's going to make sure you're not moving backwards. Oops. So how can we support you individually in that? I'm able to do a lot of this work, just supporting residents, answering questions, putting together designs, helping with seed mixes. That's the fun part, especially now that we're in April and coming up on May. It's planting season. People have great ideas. I love to walk through these different planting ideas with folks. That's what we call technical assistance. For more complicated projects, we even have landscape architects that we work with. We're able to do more advanced planning, the type of thing you'd bring to a contractor, even do yourself. We also have financial support. So if you're looking at a little section of your lakeshore, you don't want to take the jump and turn the whole thing into a wild kind of loon nesting area, maybe just one step for now. We have some projects really well made for that. We have a $500 reimbursement grant. It also works for ash tree replacement. If you've got some trees that you've had to take down the last couple of years right in that shoreline area, that $500 mini grant is really well suited for something like that. If you want to do a little bit larger section, we have a shoreline habitat incentive program. It'll actually do incremental plantings. Maybe you want to start with 10 feet. You're not sure how far you're going to make it. We have that incremental program. We'll pay you by the linear foot of shoreline. If you are confident, you're sick of rock, you're sick of mowing, whatever it is, you want to do a large one, we do have our community water cost share cost share program. That will be up to $8,000. It's designed for somewhat larger projects, usually putting in by a contractor. So we have more information on those in the back. Happy to chat more about what those look like. We're always looking for great new projects here on Forest Lake. Technical assistance, it can be as much as you're not quite sure what type of plants to put in. Happy to answer those questions. If you're just not even sure where to get started, technical assistance is a good spot to go. And then free soil testing. That's one that we've really been pushing the last couple of years. You want to make sure you're getting your money's worth. What is your return on investment when you're buying fertilizer like this? If you don't know what these numbers mean, get a soil test, talk to us, we'll help you figure it out. The big pollutant in our lakes right now is mainly phosphorus. If you're putting phosphorus on your lawn, you are largely wasting your money. We've been testing soils now for 3 years. I have not found a residential lawn in Forest Lake that requires phosphorus. So that middle number, that's the phosphorus. 8% of that package of fertilizer is phosphorus. You're wasting 8% of that purchase. When you're going to Spike and Hools, Menards, wherever you like to buy your lawn fertilizer, these are the numbers to look for. If there's a 0 in there, you are much more likely to be getting your money's worth. But again, if you're not sure, talk to us. Happy to work with you on getting those soil tests done. Or even just explain if you've had a soil test done and you're not sure what that means, talk to us about it. If you have a lawn service company and they're not doing soil testing, you are likely, not wasting your money, but you want to make sure the money that you are spending is being spent responsibly and efficiently. Chat with us about that. And back to Mike.
All right, I think I got like 1 minute. So just a note on these put sediment and nutrients back up into the water column, and that then helps create more algae. So that's I know people like these, but I just want to make a note about those, that they're a contributing factor then to more algae production. So, other things, people may not know this, but a lot of the storm drains around town, you don't have to be on the lake to have an impact on the lake. The storm drains all connect with each other, and they go down. Many of them go down to the lake directly or go through some sort of treatment system. But we wrote a grant, worked with the city to acquire that street sweeper a few years ago, actually 2017 or 2018 already, so you've seen that around. And that takes off a lot of, it's the most cost-effective thing that we do in terms of reducing nutrients and sediment from the lake right now. So glad to have the city as a partner on that. Here's just some of our data, making progress in our water quality across all of our water bodies. Just one other thing about the watercraft inspection program. In terms of, that was mentioned, the Starry Storm work, staff has completed, we have an aquatic invasive species management plan, but also we have a rapid response plan. And we did basically what amounts to a tabletop exercise. So we went through, contacted everybody that we would need to in the event that there's something there. City and the watershed district jointly own a big curtain that we could put out around a boat launch if we discover it, to contain it and do some treatment. So hopefully some actions like that can address something if have the unfortunate occurrence. But we know that there's still all these boats that are entering coming from infected lakes. Doing some additional economic impact on water quality. There was a great study out by the Clean Lakes Alliance down in the Yahara chain of lakes. And so basically here's some summary information. It's in the slide deck that you've received as well if you want to take a look at that. But obviously the cleaner water, the higher value the homes are, more demand for homes on a lake that is clean. So, one last thing here, April 27th, district is hosting this conversation about zebra mussel populations and how they affect mercury accumulation of fish. So you can contact the district office, Adam in our office, at the free workshop at the Senior Lake, or Forest Lake Senior Community. Okay, do we make it?
Okay. Let's also give a round of applause to Aiden, because he didn't get his round of applause. Thank you, Aiden. Thank you, Mike. Okay, our next speaker, one of our own, Keith Cundley, has started a new nonprofit organization called Let's Go Fishing. So we'd like to have him share that with you today.
Hello, so I'm going to put on a hat as I change my role here a little bit. We'll be talking about Let's Go Fishing, which is a new nonprofit organization that we started about 9 months ago. And the mission for Let's Go Fishing is to enhance the lives of our seniors, our veterans, our disabled individuals, and our youth groups throughout our community. So the way that we do that is we provide free fishing boats and boating trips to those groups throughout the summer. There's studies out there that have shown that there's a direct positive correlation between time spent outdoors and those individuals' mental health and improvements. So, and beyond just the studies that show this, I mean, I think all of us can appreciate being out on the lake and enjoying time on the lake and know how that makes us feel better. So, and we know directly from providing these trips to all of our guests that they enjoy it and they have a lot of fun and enjoy going out on our trips for us. So we know it's a very good opportunity for them to get out on the lake. And it also gives them an opportunity to get out on the lake with their friends. So they're forming bonds and creating lasting memories. And that's really what it's all about for us. From an organizational standpoint, we've been in business for over 20 years. We've got 17 chapters across Minnesota and Wisconsin. We've got 20 plus years of experience and growth, over 250,000 guests served so far. We have a central office in Wilmer, and the nice part about the central office is it provides our support, provides all of our procedures for us, so it's really easy for us to get a startup like we have done here in Forest Lake. But all of our chapters are independent, so we're all financially independent. All of our donations stay local. They don't go up to the central office. And we're 100% volunteer driven, so all of that money that does get donated to us is spent on our services. So our newest chapter here in Forest Lake was initiated by the city. The Forest Lake Parks and Rec coordinator, Kyle Young, reached out to us and said, hey, can you start up let's go fishing here in Forest Lake? And we said, sure, what a great idea. So they initiated this. They've been very integral. They're on our board. They're helping us out get this all started up. We've also coordinated with the Community Education Department. I don't know if you've seen your newsletters that have gone out about the community ed. We've been listed in there. They're also providing phone and media, social media support for us as well. So the city's been really involved with this and very helpful for helping us get started. And like I said, we know this is a great fit for the Forest Lake because the philanthropy here is great. We've got lots of great donations. We're doing really well financially already. Volunteerism is strong. We've got a good volunteer base here, and we've got this amazing resource that we call Forest Lake that we all get to enjoy. So it's a wonderful thing for us overall. And we've already started to see a strong guest demand. So we know it's going to be a good thing for our city. So for 2026, our plans are which is typical. We offer 2-hour trips starting in June and running through September. We offer 10 trips each week during the weekdays. We meet the guests at the public boat ramp in Lakeside Memorial Park, so it's going to be very convenient, very easy to get our guests on and off, especially if they have wheelchairs. Our goal was to get 50 or more volunteers trained in May. Our training will start here in May shortly, and we were looking to get 400 to 500 guests served this year. Hopefully, since it's our first year and just getting started up and getting new in the community, we didn't know how many guests we could get out. We certainly can handle probably 1,000 or more. Right now, our goal is to have 400 or 500 guests served. As of today, we have 42 trips booked for a total of 350 guests. In addition, we just this month we started our Last Cast program, which is a new initiative for people in hospice. So the idea is if you have somebody that's going to a hospice service and would like to get out with their family or friends for one last time, that's what we provide for. Oops, wrong way. Currently, we have plenty of volunteer opportunities left. If anyone is interested in volunteering with us, we've got 5 current board members, could use some more. We have a couple of positions for support volunteers, like on website maintenance, fundraising, boat maintenance. But most importantly, we need a lot of volunteers to be our crew and captains. So every trip that we go out on, we have 1 captain and 2 crew members. We've got roughly 150 trips right now posted on our website. So that amounts to about 450 opportunities for people to help volunteer. So if you're interested at all, let me know. I'll be waiting at the back after the meeting, and we can connect, and you can get my card if you're interested in doing any of that. Additionally, probably the biggest thing for us is just please spread the word. Let people in the community know we're here, what the senior group homes, the senior apartment complexes, hospice organizations, youth groups. If you're aware of any that could use our services, we greatly appreciate it because, again, we're trying to get the word out to the public without spending all kinds of money on marketing, of course, and we want to funnel all of our money into our guest services. So please help us get that message out across the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Such a great service. Thank you. Okay. Our next speaker. Where's Blake? Hey, there he is. Great. Our next speaker is Blake Roberts, the mayor of Forest Lake. Let's give it up for Blake.
Good to see you.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank Ken and the board for allowing me to speak. Apparently, I just have 5 minutes, so that's good for everyone at this point because we've all heard a lot of great information. So I've got a couple things I want to speak on. Some of you may have heard the term of MS4. So MS4 is, the acronym is a multiple municipal separate storm sewer system. Basically, it's a conveyance of roads, ditches, curbs, municipal streets, gutters, ditches, that all go to typically bodies of water. MS4s in Minnesota must satisfy requirements by the MS4 general permit if they are one of the following. Forest Lake is all three. Located in an urbanized area that's used by a population of 1,000 or more, owned by a municipality with population of 10,000 or more, and have a population of at least 5,000 in a system that discharges into a specifically classified body of water. And some of this is just more information as I'm speaking on that. The MS4 general permit is designed to reduce the amount of sediment and other pollutants entering into the water through the stormwater systems. Entities regulated by MS4 general permit must develop a stormwater pollution prevention program and adopt these best practices. In 2009, due to the increased expenses of satisfying this permit, the City of Forest Lake adopted this surface water management fee. This fee is charged to all tax parcels within the city and is used to complete the items required for the MS4 permit. So some of the things that we do for that include enhanced street sweeping. That was mentioned earlier about the program that we have there. Forest Lake has over 100 miles of paved road, which we sweep 5 times a year. It also contributes to the weed harvester program, boat inspections, ASI treatments for both Forest Lake and Clear Lake. And oh, by the way, we're talking about Forest Lake. That's the namesake of the town. We've got a number of other Great Lakes in the community that this fund goes to. Downtown stormwater planning, culvert installations, pond assessments, water surface projects, digital ditch maintenance, and water quality testing. We've talked a lot about money here today. Everything seems to be about money because it costs money to keep water clean. Mike Kenny had mentioned just a little bit on the Adopt a Drain program. So what I came across here that Forest Lake, the city, has really gone after is this Adopt a Drain program. And I would like to have Geneva, who will come up and speak. Geneva is a great community-involved person. She's been on our planning commission, she's on the Lake Association, and she is involved in this Adopt Drain program.
All right, so I just got a couple of things for you. You know, it is kind of about money and it's kind of about things, but the city and your tax dollars and the watershed district have put money towards a sweeper. Now that does a lot, and I know that because years ago I became part of the Adopt a Drain program. And I check 2 drains regularly and report it. It's not a big deal. It takes me about 15 minutes a month. And the benefits that are beyond what is staying out of the lake is that when the sweeper comes by, it might shoot some of the stuff into drains, which plugs the drains, which makes it hard for water to get down the drains. So if we take care of some of that debris that we shouldn't be letting down there anyway, we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. We're helping keep the lake clean, and we're also helping the water go where it needs to go, especially in storm time. So I want to also thank Blake for actually finding this program. He hadn't heard about it before, and I heard about it a few years ago from the Watershed District. It's something simple that every one of us could do is adopt a drain by our house and invest a little bit, because a little bit makes a huge difference. That's all I got.
Thanks, Geneva. Ken, are you able to click onto that link that shows? It's really a neat interactive program where it'll show all the drains in the city, and you can name it, and then you can document amount of debris that you're taking out. Okay. Yeah, so you can go onto the website, Adopt a Drain website, and it's really neat because you see the blue marks there. Those are ones that are already adopted. the yellow are not, or orange are not. So this is something that costs nothing. It doesn't take a whole lot of time. And when we're talking about quality of water towards cleaning the lake, this is an easy no-brainer. So it'd be great to have everyone go to that site, sign up. You can name the drain, whatever you want to name it. I think, Geneva, you named yours after your 2 dogs. Is that correct? And so it's just a great program. It's something that, again, doesn't cost anything. So we just appreciate the relationship with the watershed and the Lake Association. And I think after here we'll have some Q&A, so I'm available for any questions during that or after. So thanks for allowing some time tonight.
Thank you, Blake. We really value our partnership with the city, so thank you so much for your support. Okay, we're going to take a break for just a couple minutes because we got to get the chairs set up. We're going to invite the speakers to come up here. So the way we got the question and answer is organized, I'd like you to just focus on question and answers for our guest speakers to start. If there's any questions around Tim's Marina, hold those off until the end. We'll come back to those, okay? Okay, we're ready to get started. Okay, we got first question is right here. Good to see you.
Hello. Hello, thank you everybody for your excellent presentation. I have 2 questions. The first one is, does the Lake Association knows that Forest Lake have PFAS right now, and the DNR recently recommended not to eat fish for people with sensitive conditions, or what would be the word? So it's not recommended to eat fish for people sensitive population. Does the Forest Lakes know anything about that? The PFAS, any way to get rid of that? That was my first question. The second one is, can the Forest Lake Association look into buying those machines to clean the boats that they were displaying in the presentation?
Great, thank you. So I'll answer the second question first. They're looking, yes, we are definitely looking into these 3D, I get their acronym wrong, but we're in conversation with them, and we're looking into that. And we're looking at trying to find other partners also to go in with us on those and try to get some here on Forest Lake. Okay, and do you want to answer on the question regard to the fish? Anybody?
That's a great question about PFAS, and that is very ubiquitous right now around the state. I'm not sure, I've looked at the DNR Fish Finder. If you look at the DNR Lake Finder in the fisheries area, they will have health advisories. Did they list PFAS for Forest Lake? Yep. So, it's... Okay, 1 serving per month, but that's a very conservative value, and that's for people that are going to be somewhat sensitive or would be impacted most greatly by that. Otherwise, 1 meal a week and things like that. The fish and PFAS is an ongoing situation. We'll probably be finding PFAS in most fish in most lakes as soon as they start testing them. So that health advisory is out there. It's on the Lake Finder website, DNR, and then under fisheries. So thanks for bringing that up.
Great. Good. I think this.
Hey, that one's a little bit better. Question is for Blake. I've lived here for 32 years. We've had a lot of challenges with the city of Forest Lake. What is the largest challenge right now that we have with the city of Forest Lake?
All right, here we go.
Thanks for the question there, Blake. There's a number of challenges, 2 of which as much as we enjoy the partnership with the Watershed District, I'm going to be frank here, the watershed is a big challenge for the city. We are trying to develop, we're trying to do it the right way. The requirements that this watershed has over a lot of other watersheds is highly exceeds what Rice Lake has or Browns Creek or these. Example, a lot of you are aware of North Shore. We redid North Shore last year. We would have liked to have expanded that to have more pedestrian and just more safe lanes. Had we done that and expanded that at all, the Watershed District had triggered these requirements that would double the cost of that project. So when we are to the point where we are sacrificing public safety over what watershed requirements are, that's a challenge, to be honest with you.
Next question.
That's a good response from the city, but I'd like to hear from the watershed as far as their side. Equal time.
Yeah, thanks. Well, there is that perception, and because there's an example recently about a development over at Ingersoll, and we went through, if we use all the other neighboring watershed rules, they would have required a stormwater, it would have triggered a permit through a stormwater requirement for them as well. We are looking at doing a couple different economic studies. I started in this work decades ago now, in an early part of my career when there were no erosion sediment control permits. We would see literally dump truck loads of sediment running off sites into the lakes. It wasn't farming over the last 40 years that was increasing the sediment rate into Forest Lake. It's been construction activity. But we want to know what is that right economic balance. So I grew up on a dairy farm where my dad was a banker and a dairy farmer. We didn't have high yields, but we optimized profitability. So that's been that sweet spot that we're looking for. So we have a current research project that the district has initiated with the University of Minnesota to look at what the cost unit is for these types of practices. If no one else has initiated, we would love it if the developers or the League of Minnesota Cities or someone else would do that, but we're taking the lead on that part of it. So, I think also on that road project, I think the biggest cost was the requirement to fill in some of the road ditch, which was wetland. So, so there was that, and we did not have a chance to review that project in advance to offer comment or input either.
Great, thank you. That was a good idea. Okay. All right, do we have another question? Let's see if this one's working. Okay.
Thank you. I have a property that neighbors a person that really doesn't care anything about the lake. We live on Third Lake, and he was given a grant from the watershed to put plants up on a tier that's many feet above the lake and way far away from the lake. Call it a pollinator garden. He actually never mowed his grass, and weeds were allowed to grow 10, 12 feet high right next to my yard, devaluing my property immensely. Okay? I was told by you that I should just put up a privacy fence and then put some fencing in and spend $10,000 to $20,000 on my property to put this fence up. This property, allowing him to do what he's doing, has majorly devalued my property. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that in the courts. Any thoughts on that? Because the city now can't. I had the city out because it is breaking city rules because he has weeds growing. And they can't do anything about it because they don't know where these watershed plants are on the property, and they can't be brought down. If you want to see pictures, I'd love to throw my pictures to a screen.
So, yeah, I'm glad you're here and glad you're sharing those comments with us. I do recall our meetings on the property. You know, I would say that for folks who are interested or who have heard of our programs, it's a reimbursement grant. We do provide guidance. In this particular case, I've, you know, certainly been working with the landowner in question about how to properly manage these plants. That's something that we are able to provide to any resident who has native plants, not just those using our grants. We typically suggest mowing them on occasion. And so, you know, I'm sorry that this experience is occurring. Sounds like you have some recourse with the city. That's not necessarily something that we would be, you know, involved with. But yeah, we definitely encourage folks to work with their neighbors. And you know, oftentimes, depending on the project, there are lots of good ways to make these plantings more aesthetic. You know, having a little bit of edging, especially where things meet turf grass. So if that's something that you're ever interested in having us out and talking more about, sounds like that might not be the case, but you know, certainly open to continuing this conversation and working together in the spirit of collaboration. I think largely we're all on the same side here in keeping the lake healthy and clean.
Anyone else got a question? Yes.
All right. My name's Angie, Lake 3. First, I want to add a comment, and then I have a question for you. From a comment and a call to action standpoint, how many of you here own a dog? Pets on your property? Garden on your property? Right. I didn't hear any mention tonight about lime or gypsum. Everybody here, if you don't have them already, go pick up some lime and some gypsum. Gypsum bonds to phosphorus. It helps to break up soil in spring so your grass can grow easier, your garden can grow better. It also helps neutralize the pH, so dog pee spots will at least be avoided for a bit until the rain flushes the gypsum down. Gypsum is very inexpensive. Get it at Spike and Holes. Don't buy it at Home Depot or the lime because they jack it up because lime can also be used to add color for your hydrangeas or something. They'll charge like $20 for a little bag. You get a huge bag for $5 to $10 at any type of farm feed place. So gypsum is for the pea spots, loosening the soil, bonds to phosphorus. Lime will kill ticks. Kills the larva for the ticks coming into your yard's ticks. And we know that nobody here wants Lyme disease and nobody wants their dog bringing them into the house either. So the lime is also excellent. The lime is micro fine powder. I usually use a powdered sugar dispenser to spread it everywhere in the yard. Touch your plants, touch your mulch, whatever. It'll look like powdered snow everywhere. You can spray it down after so that it stays where you actually intended it to try to go, so it stays there. But it works great, and it will kill the present ticks and will prevent them from coming up. We don't have sprinklers, and we have a very slanted slope property. We typically do that treatment twice a year. The lime twice a year. Gypsum we only do in spring, but excellent for the phosphorus control in areas that you need to balance out. Also, we had a soil test done. We're on the north side of Lake 3, and we're like in that neutral spot of phosphorus, so if anybody's on that part of Lake 3, definitely don't need more phosphorus in any of your fertilizer stuff.
Great, thank you. Did you have a question as well?
Now my question, right? So go buy gypsum and lime. Alum. Alum is a big pain point for me. I'm fear of the amount of aluminum that is collecting in our lake. When you showed the chart earlier as to how far back we've been treating the curly leaf pondweed, at what point did we start treating with alum?
So the alum on Second Lake was just was twice, last year and 2 years
Like
prior.
ever? So only 2 years of treatment of alum? Not since
Correct.
2009?
Correct.
Are there any metrics being done to measure the amount of aluminum in the lake, or like a cutoff point on the alum so that we don't have that?
Yes, in fact, so we have a great relationship with a number of universities, and one of them with a PhD student did some before analysis of Forest Lake and Second Lake there prior, and then some post treatment as well. So we'll have that data in addition to the core samples that we took, which are deeper, but those include a very wide suite of different elements that we tested for. I'd have
Are
to go
fish
back
being tested?
we'd probably have to connect with DNR to see if that's being done, or if we could do that with that grad student. That's a good
Okay.
question.
Just curious about that, because the sunnies do their nests and they eat the sand, they're spitting it out. Bigger fish are eating the sunnies. If that's in that whole ecosystem of that, if aluminum is now collecting in the fish that could be taken out, and now we're eating aluminum because it's in the sand where it's not supposed to come up anymore, right?
So the treatment is at the deeper part of the lake. It was not in the shallow areas at all, and it goes in as a liquid, and then if you happen to see there's some photos of a treatment aerially, but if you actually had the chance to see it, it creates a flocculant, and then immediately is dispersed down to the bottom of the lake. It creates basically a capsule across that sediment, and it'll grab it as it's going down, the phosphorus, but then also creates that layer of the deeper part. So there was no treatments in any of the near shore or shallow parts of the lake. We have all the mapping, including the GPS coordinates for the whole treatment.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Another question?
So, hello again. So when I joined the Lake Association 11 years ago, in the first meeting, it was all new to me. I've been coming to every meeting since then. But in the first meeting, they informed me that there were 3 control lake access, or where we have inspectors checking boats in and out. But the lake also have about 4 to 6 lake access that they're not inspected. And since 11 years ago, they've been talking about to do something about it, either limit them or the city close them or do something with those lake access. And I had the same question last year, and it wasn't you, it was a different president. I think they didn't have the answer. But again, it's been 11 years. Do we know where the non-controlled lake access are? And are we doing something to either inspect them or block them from use in the summer so the boats can get inspected? And this is try to avoid aquatic invasive species.
Good question. So these access points go way back to the 20s. They were the ability for the public to use the lake to those who don't live on the lake. At the end of the day, as much as I know we all pay high property taxes on the lake, this is public water. And so there's a little bit of a back and forth, whether do you close these and not allow the public to use, again, public waters, or do you want to keep them open so they can, or do you want to have these controlled? It's a debate that goes back and forth. I tend to lean that this is public water. We all live on the lake, we pay property taxes, but at the end of the day, it's everyone's lake. understand that point. You know, there's a lot of great neighborhoods that are attached to the lake through these access points. I would struggle to reduce those anymore. I think it's just great access. People come to Forest Lake because a lot of reasons because of the lake. You don't have to live on the lake. Some people aren't privileged enough to live on the lake. It's about these neighborhood connections. You know, there's a lot of people that might want to cut those off. That I think it's a value of being a resident of Forest Lake, whether you live on directly in the lake or not.
Great. Do you have a question, miss?
There's no parking for any of these people, so you're not really getting other people from other. I'm pretty loud. You're not going to really get other people wanting to be able to put their boats in because there's not anywhere for their docks or their trailers to go to because it's literally going to be people that live close to the lake and they're going to walk back and put their trailers back in their driveways because they want to use the lake. So I personally don't want to shut them down, the small ones. I get what you're saying, sir. But most of these places that have the entry to be able to get on, there is no parking. So it's not like what we have in the uptown or on Third Lake. That's where the main people that are going to be not from our community going to be using that.
So here's a thought that I've got. We've got this new publication coming out, The Laker, and it's targeting people that are on the lake. But we have this whole community of people that are just off the lake that are like in these neighborhoods, and maybe they should be on this list also. That somehow we get their addresses and add them, whether they have deeded access or not deeded access, or they use these launches, so that they get information. Because we're going to put our information in this periodical also to get it out to people. That could help with more education. Okay, go for it. You want here?
Closer. So I live by, this is too much.
I live by one of those inlets, and right now I know that all of us want to be able to keep the weed harvester going, because I totally do. But is there a way that we can maybe shift it to another location every other year? Because for the last 3 years, we've had it in our neighborhood. We live in an alley street. It's really, really hard to be able to maneuver by. And we have these big trucks that are in our neighborhood that it's too much. We finally just got our road repaired, and the big trucks coming in and out to be able to get all the weeds out, because they I don't know how, we've already had this conversation. But I just wanted to be able to say if there could be a different solution on it, maybe it could switch to a different area. You know, every other year.
Yeah, it's a good question. So Blake, do you want to say anything more on that?
So we have had this conversation. It is a good point. So for a long time, at the mouth of the bay, we had a resident that allowed us, the city, to leave the harvester there for years. And we sprayed his area, and he was very generous to allow that. That gentleman moved, the new owners didn't allow that. So right now, where they're at strategically is the most efficient to get the weeds off the lake. I mean, it takes, if everyone's seen that thing go, it's very slow, and so it takes a long time to get from A to B. My goal would be to try to move it a little bit so maybe it's not there all season, but for part of the season. But that's just another reason why these access points are there. And not only that, safety, fire, getting out to, if someone's drowning or some type of an ice emergency, if someone falls in the lake, that's what those access points are for.
Great. Thank you. Okay, any more questions? It's going to be, I'm just learning about it, just so you know, but they're going to target primarily the people around the lake, but then they're going to put stacks of these periodicals strategically around town that are free, that the general public can pick up. And I don't know if they'll have an extended, mailing beyond that.
So I'll just, from the city perspective, we do a monthly update that goes out to all the, well, if you sign up for it, I will have that included in just some education about that. It's a good point.
Great, thank you. Okay, going once. Oh, we got a question over there.
Good question. So part of the reason why, the main reason why we did not completely do North Shore, the original plan was to do from Greenway Avenue out to 97. From Greenway to 61, that is the larger part. That's the North Shore Drive. That's the old city part. That has city sewer, city water. Some of those pipes are excess of 100 years old. That's going to be about an $11 million project. We're hoping to work with the watershed to allow us to do that with not as much ponding or stormwater management. We'll still do it because that'll make that price even higher. So that project is planned for 28. So part of the reason why, the other reason why we didn't go to Greenway is the idea of potentially a trail that would go all the way from Highway 61 or the Hardwood Creek Trail to out to Coon Camp Park. That's the goal. Financially, is it reality? We don't know, but we put a pause on that portion just to do some studies and see if we can make that happen. We are, unfortunately, yes. What was that?
I'm sorry, what's that? Oh, okay. All right, so, yeah, any other questions? Okay, great. Sure. Well, do you have a question on it? Just to wrap up, what happened? Yeah, so the city approved the 36 slips for Tim's Marina. They originally proposed 72 slips. There was a lot of debate. We debated about it. The city debated about it, and it looked at it, and the decision was that 36 was a reasonable, I just say reasonable compromise. Looked at I worked with Joe on this, and he was really thoughtful on how he addressed the questions and issues about this. How, what was the impact of these 36 boats? They did a study that said only 20% of their boats are out at any one time on the lake. And that's on a peak weekend. And so that meant that 36 slips add 7 boats to the lake. So it's pretty small numbers. How many total? I think they have like 90, I can't remember, 96 now. Oh, they're adding 36 more, so roughly in that range. And yeah, and they looked at the parking. The parking was, they're reusing some camper slots. So there's no new parking being added. There's no AIS threat because there's these boats are all staying in Forest Lake. They're not going, they're not coming and going. And then we complained and said, hey, you aren't contributing to the lake. And they responded, and they've contributed generously now to the Lake Association to help us fight invasive species. So they really addressed the 4 key things that the Lake Association members brought to our attention, and we fought for those. So Blake, any more comments on that? Yes, they've agreed to pay us a fee for each one of the slips, and they've already sent us the money. So it's I expect he's going to do that every year. I feel very good about it.
Ken, I don't really have a lot to add to that. I think it was a happy medium. The city council approved that 4-0. There was one absent member. It seemed like a happy medium. 72 was too excessive. That's what we felt based on just parking and maybe traffic on the lake. But it seems like 36 is a good number that we landed on, and we're going to be able to support old school type marina that you just don't see in this day and age on city lakes. And so Joe's been a very good steward of the lake, and I'm glad that we were able to make that happen.
I'm sorry, could you say that again? Public use? No, it's going to be, they used to do boat rentals, like day rentals there, and they've stopped that. So again, these are slips that are seasonal. I really don't know. I don't know. For a fee? Oh, yeah, don't know. Any more questions? You know, it's really been a pleasure to have you all here this evening. Let's give a great, huge round of applause for all our speakers. Have a great night. Don't forget to grab a sign on the way out and pass those handouts to your neighbors. Have a great evening. Drive home safely.